Just like the contrast there, so we like to slow down for a couple of seconds. But here on the left, this very beautiful collection of boats. This is a yacht club. So we have 3 yacht clubs out here on the islands. We have the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, the Queen City Yacht Club. This one is called the Island Yacht Club. It has its own private island. So right behind it, Muggs Island, it's not connected to any of the rest. To step foot on this island, you have to be part of the yacht club. You have to come on their private tender boat. So very exclusive. Don't want any nosy tourists on their island. Now they have a really interesting tradition at this yacht club. A lot of people will name their boats after their professions. So we do have a boat here called Chicken Soup the Sixth. That's someone who worked for the Campbell Soup Company. Ketchup is someone who worked for Heinz. We have a doctor who named his boat Checkup. Dentist named her boat Molar Power with a little dinghy off the back called the Tooth Fairy, which is pretty cute. A little bit more morbid, we had someone who worked for the Liquor Control Board of Ontario who named his Cirrhosis of the River. Yeah. We also had a psychologist and a proctologist who named their boat Heads or Tails. So we did actually have a really bad winter that just passed. We actually used to have, you can't see it anymore, where we just passed near the yacht club, there used to be a long dock there, and because of the really bad winter, all of this water froze and it pushed the dock completely up. So they had to come and remove it because it was on an angle like this instead of being level with the water. So there is a sign there saying that these islands here are protected. You're not allowed to step foot onto these islands. So these are all bird and wildlife sanctuaries off to either side. Mostly here on the right, we have about 200 different species of birds that will stop here on their migratory paths, including this mute swan here on the right. We also have wildlife out here. Nothing too big or iconically Canadian though. You won't find any moose or polar bears out here. The biggest animal we have here is the white-tailed deer. We have some beavers too. We apparently have a 100-pound beaver somewhere out here. It's really big. At one point, we even had alligators in these waters. Does anyone believe me? I'm partially telling the truth. We had mechanical alligators in these waters. Yeah. That's a very good question. Why were they here? They brought them in for the shooting of a movie called Police Academy 5. So that movie was supposed to take place in the Florida Everglades. So they turned these islands into the Florida Everglades for that movie. Doesn't really look like it right now. They did a pretty convincing job in the movie, but they actually forgot to edit something out. In the background of one of the boat chase scenes, yeah, you can see the top of the CN Tower. CN Tower's first trip to Florida in that movie. So right now, we're just going around a smaller island. Off here on the left, this is called Forestry Island. So again, this is still protected for those bird and wildlife sanctuaries. So do keep your eyes peeled for birds. That we have people who live out here on the islands. Yeah. We have about 700 people that live on these islands all year round, which is why in just a little bit we'll actually be able to see an elementary school. Now the houses aren't on this side of the islands, but we do have a small school that goes up until grade 6. So the people who live out here on the islands, they'll send their children to the school that's up here on the right. It's kind of hidden behind the trees there, but you can see the brown building. It's actually really hard to get a house out here on the islands. It's not on the public real estate market, so you do have to go through the Island Trust Fund to get a house. You actually have to go into a kind of lottery system. If your name gets picked out of the lottery, your name goes to the bottom of a list of 500 people. You then have to slowly make your way to the top of that list of 500. So it usually takes about 30 years to make your way to the top, and then you kind of just take whatever they offer you or go back down to the bottom of the list. Now one thing that's kind of inconvenient about living out here, there are no grocery stores, there's no shopping centers, there's no school above grade 6, so people do need to regularly make their way back to the city of Toronto, which in the summer is no problem. It takes about 10 minutes by ferry to make it to the city of Toronto. In the winter though, the whole harbour freezes over, so we have one ferry that can break through the ice, but it takes over an hour to make it across. That's a really long trip, which is why most of the people who live out here on the islands usually don't have jobs that require them to go back to the city every day. We have a lot of artists, a lot of writers as well. Has anyone read the book Franklin the Turtle, or heard of him? Yeah. The person who wrote that actually used to live out here on the islands. Yeah, they made a TV show on it. There's originally a show.
Yeah, that's fine. We're just finishing our turn here, and then you can have a...
Yeah, we have a lot of things so much. They don't really like books, so they kind of tend to stay away. That's a very good question. What are those seats over there facing the water? Those are called the grandstands. So that's where the judges will sit when we have races and festivals right here in this channel. So the channel we're going down right now is called Long Pond. It's about 1 kilometer long. It's really sheltered from the winds too because of all the trees, so it's really good for canoes, kayaks, boats like that. The weekend that just passed, we had a really popular festival called the Dragon Boat Festival. It's actually the second largest dragon boat festival in the world, so lots of people came down for that one. We have other festivals and races as well. We have a big race called the Dominion Day Regatta that'll happen here on Canada Day. We used to have a really interesting festival here called the Viking Boat Festival. People would dress up like Vikings and then race down this channel in Viking-style war canoes. There were also on-land competitions that were part of that festival. One of them was called the Scandinavian Wife Carrying Contest. So men would take their wives, throw them over their shoulder, and then run through an obstacle course as fast as they could. Now, a lot of people think if you have a really small wife, that's an advantage. You can make it through faster. But you have to keep in mind that the winner of this contest gets his wife's weight in beer. So you have to factor that in. Popular thing to do out here is to fish. We have about 35 different species in these waters, so a lot of people will come out to do that. You can see people catching really large fish sometimes. Now, what we do still have every year is called a salmon derby. So they'll place salmon into these waters that have tanks on them. If you fish out one of those salmon, you win whatever prize is associated with it. The biggest prize being the $1 million salmon. No one Well, one person caught it, but she caught it after the contest ended, so she didn't get her prize money. We do have other really good prizes to be won though. A couple years ago we had a 14-year-old boy who won a Toyota truck. I'm sure his parents were really happy about that one. You can win barbecues and stuff like that too. Now right now we're just heading down a smaller channel here. This one is called Deep Pike Cut, which is a very misleading name because it's not very deep at all. It's about 8 feet. There are a lot of pike though. That is one of the fish that we have out here. So what we'll be passing on the right here, this collection of boats, this is called the Toronto Island Marina. So you'll notice as we go by, it does look quite different from a yacht club, which is what we saw in the first half. The biggest difference between a yacht club and a marina is money. Yacht clubs are a lot more expensive. You have to pay those membership fees every year. Here at the marina, it's much more affordable. They also don't care what your boat looks like, so you can dock whatever you'd like as long as it floats. Really interesting difference though, something that you can do here at the marina, which you cannot do at a yacht club, is live on your boat. So we have about 200 people every summer who will come here and spend the entire summer living on their boats, which kind of sounds like roughing it, living on your boat all summer. They do get access to running water, electricity, cable, internet. They have a bar and a restaurant right in the center of the marina, public washrooms, place to fuel up your boat, mechanic station, so really quite convenient. They do have a fairly limited season. They'll only be in the water for a couple of months while it's really nice out. But what's also really nice about living out here is that right behind where you dock your boat, you have a little patch of grass here where you can set up your barbecue, your patio furniture, umbrellas. You have someone who sets up a hammock every year. Sometimes you even have someone who brings an inflatable hot tub out. So quite nice. Definitely the best part about living out here. You have to watch our tour go by every hour of every day, all summer long. They really like us, especially when we talk about them like they're on National Geographic. It's their favorite part. Now another really popular thing to do out here is to sail. We have quite a few sailing